Okay, so today we're going to be learning how to draw and shade and color fruit. So fruit slices, specifically. So right here I have some picture, a reference photo that I'm going to be going off of. I will put a link to it in the description. It's from a tutorial for like slicing kiwi, just in general. So without any further ado, we'll get started. The first step you start with is the outline and the features, like the center of the kiwi, of the primary face. Not the full outline, just the non-3D part. Make sure that you have that looking accurate before moving on to the next step, which is making it 3D. Notice now that I am defining the parts where the knife left corners, as the kiwi was being peeled, so it will look more accurate when the time comes to color it. Round the edges instead of making it fully geometric, because organic things never grow fully geometric, and you want this drawing to be as realistic as it can be. I had to erase the bottom slice and redraw it because it wasn't close enough to the main pile of kiwi. Adjustments like that will save you frustration at later steps. Next, you need to create an almost daisy petal look around the middle. Define the center and add the seeds. I relied heavily on the picture to come up with a natural pattern for the seeds. Putting them in a geometric pattern will detract from the authenticity of your drawing, so unless you're familiar with the kinds of patterns that kiwi seeds grow into, you should either get one and slice it or refer to a reference photo. Also, remember that the seeds you see aren't all on top, so some seem smaller and lighter than others. Swatching helps us decide which colors to use for the picture, as we can see how they're going to appear on the picture. As you can see, I'm writing the number that's on the edge of the Prismacolor on top, so that I can find it later. So what I'm next going to do is the outline, and I don't know what to call this technique, but basically what I do is I erase the graphite, because graphite will ruin the Prismacolor picture if it gets, in the drawing itself. It's just not going to look good. It's going to spread everywhere, and that's just not good. We don't want a gray kiwi. So I erase all of the graphite and replace it with like colors of what I'm actually going to shade it with Prismacolor. So we'll get started in just one moment, because my Prismacolor is in the other room. Erase the first line that you will replace with Prismacolor. Start with Chartreuse 989 and then come in with Apple Green 912. These will be the two main colors of the drawing. Replace the daisy petals with an apple green ring, then come in behind with Lime Peel 1005 and simply color over the apple green. With Prismacolors, in contrast to other colored pencils, they can layer and blend quite easily. This adds depth to your drawing. They are almost like oil pastels, but for the most part do not smear. However, the page can become messy if you brush too much and don't blow the shavings off. This mainly happens when you are coloring heavily and with multiple colors. Be sure to erase all the graphite. This is vital in order to preserve the integrity of the pencil colors. Otherwise, you may end up with a muddy picture that you cannot fix. Black Prismacolor, however, does not usually create this effect when used sparingly. Hence, the first smattering of seeds can be colored over and it adds to the composition. The color profile that comes about from swatching will make your decisions on placement of color easier. Blending so that the colors work together to complete the piece is key. For the middle, use chartreuse around the edge, then layer specifically white, chartreuse, canary yellow, 916, and then burnish with more white. Next, go back with chartreuse and blend the apple green ring with the edges. Kiwi flesh transitions smoothly for the most part. Here I didn't realize I wasn't recording until it was too late. In the omitted section, I used black to create a striated appearance, as well as true green 910 and grass green 909 to create more contrast. Afterwards, I added white in between the lower striations, then went over it with lime peel and chartreuse. Continue to blend. You'll progress steadily with each color layer you add. canary yellow will be a game changer for the hue on the edge. Looking from your drawing to the reference photo, you can see how much of a change this is from the greener green that was there before to a yellowish green, and how stark the contrast is from kind of like before adding yellow to actually realistic tones after. White striations will need to be added and layered several times throughout this process and on all facets of the cut kiwi. This helps develop the piece's texture. It will help the edges of the kiwi to look right and the unevenness of the natural kiwi to be replicated on your page. This is especially needed for the top of the kiwi slice. Shade over the ring slightly with grass green. Later yellow will be added, so even though it isn't the right color right now, it will end up being the right color when you blend. Here you will need to give shape to your kiwi. It may involve erasing parts of the kiwi. Remember, it may take a while to build up the erased parts to meld with the rest of the colors and be as developed as the rest of the picture. Continue to define. The places where the knife left corners are the most important to define during this step. Next, depending on what your drawing looks like, utilize each color to smooth out the picture. Any visible lines in the drawing besides the seated area will need to be burnished out. You will use all of the colors intuitively here, including black. Don't worry about the seeds, they will look better when you are done if you ignore them for the time being and simply color. As you finish up on some spots, the white is going to be the main thing that makes your drawing pop, but you need to make sure it doesn't wash out the drawing or make it too green. It needs to be more yellow to be kiwi color, which will require adding a little more yellow after each step. You do not want a Kelly green kiwi, of course. Previously, you should have made sure that the sketch of how the kiwis will lay looks right for this step. If need be, you would have had to erase and redraw the pile. Again, you will need to be careful that the white you are adding doesn't wash out the pile. It is vital to use white in these stages, of course, but it simply needs to be balanced out by yellow and green to create the right look. Remember that any spot you erase will need to be built up to the same color adjacent to it, and as you have eliminated most or all of the layers, it will take extra care to blend correctly. Don't be upset if part of your drawing that you are trying to fix doesn't look quite right. It will take just a bit of work and diligence to add the layers necessary for it to look correct. The last minute or so of defining is quite important. This part of the coloring is where you will clean up the edges of each slice and add signs that they are separate and analogous. Each piece should match geometrically, as if the knife sliced each piece apart precisely next to the adjacent one. You can achieve this look through the shape in general, and also using apple green to make each slice behind each other slice a little bit darker than the edge. Add it in daintily, using only a tad to make a sort of shadow, hinting at the darker kiwi flesh underneath. Using white is also a good idea to define. Again, you can come in after to balance the color out. Right now, the most important thing is to separate each piece enough so that they complete the piece. Going forward, this will be the most important. I'm going to take this last little bit of time to talk about Prismacolors. I personally have the 72 pack, and it costs $40 on Amazon, but you can also work with the 12 pack. All the Prismacolor colors can be blended from the top starting 12 colors to a point. Really, if you're wanting to start with high quality colored pencils and art supplies, Prismacolors are the way to go. They can run from about $15 to $20, and honestly, it's one of the best things that you can decide to put your money into when it comes to art. Prismacolor makes the best formula, I think, out of anything. Over oil pastels, acrylic paints, anything. I like working with Prismacolors the best. They simply do what Crayola can't and doesn't. I can't recommend them more.